think that what worked really well were the debates and conversations and forum posts of the proposals. I think what could have been done better is, it's just a lot of information. This isn't what I said. Other people have said this, but sort of separating them out and maybe taking on one module at a time instead of all of them together. That really resonated. I think that's something that could have, it arguably would have taken the same amount of time. Hard to know. Keeping the level of engagement so high for so long on so many different modules could be tricky too. Understanding our voting better, the quadratic rank choice voting, it only dawned on me when we were doing it that I was like, actually, I have no idea what's happening. So maybe understanding those decision space, how some of these the new votings work, not the more simpler votings. Yeah, I think overall, I really give us a lot of credit for how we handled creating the platform for education versus turning it into some sort of competition for a winning proposal. I really feel like all of the debates were moderated in a way that surfaced strengths and weaknesses in a can I say, I can't say bipartisan, but in a omnipartisan way. I actually thought the way we handled that from, I guess, a political perspective, it didn't turn into a slugfest, it didn't turn into a mud wrestling or something. It didn't deteriorate into something that it could have actually, sort of borderline. It could have rankled a community versus then uniting a community. And I think the way we approached it was very uniting. I'm not going to go on. I think so that was technically and culturally and personally. So from those three perspectives, I think I have it covered. Yeah, and I'll pass to Chewy.
Thank you, Tam. What did we learn? It was interesting. I have to admit, I was afraid of being super sad because communism wasn't gonna turn out winning in the end. But it was just I wish I could be more critical about it. But to be honest, I learned so much. And I would rephrase what Tam just said, about it being a mud fight, to I was so happy it didn't turn to a complete bloodbath because when I took two steps back, reflecting on what we were picking and I've also with all of the work with the Taoist and this thing, I've been reflecting a lot on just Latin American history and how in Latin America the decision-making process has not always been the same as in the rest of the world. I feel that there are regions that have their own particularities. So yeah, this is why I'm saying I can't be really critical because it was so big just to imagine the effect that this can have in societies. So I learned a lot from always being vulnerable throughout the whole process, and also getting to take in feedback from people as they are also in a safe space to be vulnerable. And I feel that is already making a huge difference in how people can reflect on each other's decisions, and from time to time, like, open up to, instead of being like all political, also get to understand what we emotionally go through as a collective. So yeah, um, I'm still very, very excited and hyped for the last process that we did, and I can't wait to have the commons upgrade process, like all of us together. I know that it's gonna be like a lot of learning as well. I'll pass it to Juanca.
Thanks, Chuy. Um, yeah, I think what it's really cool about this kind of events that involve so many people is that um, it impacts us in a different way to each one of us, even though that it's like the same event happening. So it's super interesting. At least from my point of view, I felt I learned a lot. That's what I like the most. I learned a lot from the params parties, the debates, and I also think that the winning proposal will be like a really cool system for our economy. And I am also excited to learn more on the talk like formal token engineering side of the picture, because yeah, by interacting with it you like break the ice, and sometimes you feel a little bit like threatened by some topics, but like interacting this way with them, it make it like really easy, really fun, really participatory. And now I think that it will be really cool to also be more on the back end of the picture too, and learn from yeah, not only by choosing the params in a dashboard, but being able to make myself the params or the implementation of them in other organizations. I think that was really cool. And I will pass to Griff.
Wow. Get ready. I have a lot to say. Now, I'll try to keep it short. I'll try to keep it as short as I can. But there's it was, I would say, first off, let me start with the good stuff. It was great. I mean, my God, we learned so much as a community. I think I can't imagine that there's another community who understands anywhere near as complex of a system as this for their DAO. I don't even think I don't think it even comes close in crypto of having like all of the stewards have such a deep understanding of the decision making that was made on why this economy works the way it does. And I think that'll pay dividends for a long time. But I will say that we made it relatively inaccessible for people who just want to dive in. We did the best that we could, but obviously going one module at a time, I think would have made it much more engaging for everyone. And there's also a lot of complexity in the deployment process that we made that could make improvements. I agree with everything that everyone else has said up to this point. So like +1 on that, and I'll try to say things that weren't said. In the common swarm, we know when we did the hatch, like there was a huge delay between the hatch and the actual upgrade. And that was mostly because of gardens and the parameter dashboard needed to be built. And so I think for future commons, it'll be a lot easier because this tooling will be there. But probably not for the very next commons, because we have a lot of improvements to make. First off, the hatch will definitely just go straight into a gardens, not have this like hatch DAO to migration thing that we have to do, which made a lot of things very complicated. We will probably still maintain, I think we have to maintain the rage quit premise for legal reasons, but it's really annoying. Like right now, today, I have to sort out this like, exactly how are we going to tweak. Luckily, no one rage quit. So, we can just use the numbers that we know and I think it all becomes official tomorrow at like basically 24 hours from now. So in about 24 hours, if no one else has rage quit, then I won't have to do any, we won't, like me, Nuggin, Vitor, and Sam, and Paulo won't have to do any adjusting. We can just use what we're going to come up with today. But like, it's this like these last minute changes are so annoying, and we just need to not do them ever. Like, it would be so great to have to be able to actually design the parameter set that we're going to use, but this like rage quit mechanism really prevents that from being possible. We have to make assumptions, and then those assumptions are they're like I'm almost considering rage quitting some just to get it exactly right on, you know, the amount at the last minute. I'm not going to, because it's too much. But if we were closer, you know, if more people rage quit, I was just gonna just do it so it could just be exactly as we, you know. But that's not cool either. So I don't know. It's like we're doing the best that we can to get as close as possible, but it'd be really nice if we could actually design the real economy through this process and not have to make these last minute adjustments because of the rage quit mechanism. So definitely going to think on that for a while. Also, just like timelines being so difficult and how to deal with that. I think that'll be so much easier for people who aren't blazing a trail. You know, it's like we're whacking the trail with the machete, you know, as we go. And I think for future commons, the trail will be blazed and we can have better predictions of our timelines. But I can't believe that we're launching in 2022. That's a little late. Our first roadmap said 2020, guys. So anyway, the other lessons learned. I guess the big thing is I would really like for it to be able to have like collaborative economic drop-in. You know, the stewards were the ones that made all the last proposals, right? There wasn't anything that emerged organically. Like there was collaboration that happened through other people outside of our close-knit community, but it would be really nice to have been able to. I didn't see it stick. Like the collaborative economics process wasn't sticky. So yeah, that's probably it. And then yeah, I'm excited to see how we could get more like classical people who label themselves as token engineers in, and for future commons, you know, the builder group being the more integrated into the stakeholder group would be nice as well. Yeah, but that's about it. I think the launch is going really well. Overall, things were smoother than I expected, because crypto launches are just a mess. And I think the educational the education that we developed into our community is like, well, hopefully it pays off, because it was a lot of work, and I think it will pay off, but I guess we have to see. I feel like I'd love to do this again, lessons learned like in 3 months, and just see like how it paid off and be able to understand. I'll pass it to Zeptimus. Did you go?
Thank you, Griff. No, I didn't go. Yeah, I mean, overall, I think we had a good lunch, and this is like the first time we do it together. So, but I think like there's some things like we could do better, like in future, or even even in the TC. Like I think like for example like our governance tools are different on chain and off chain. I think we should work on that. Like like imagine like we like a couple of waves we were not agree with Goldilocks, let's say, and then they would block it even if we have a legitimate vote on Snapshot. I think it should be more aligned, like the decisions on chain and off chain. And then I also agree with Griff, like it was supposed to launch on 2020. I mean, most of the thing was because devs, and it happens. I mean, those things happen. I'm actually was supposed to play a video game that was supposed to launch in 2020 and still didn't launch. So we won that race. And yeah, I mean overall, I think. Oh, one another thing, which is great, right? Like, even if we had like this governance different, like, then when okay, we have this decision that we decided it collectively, and then like no one opposed it on the on chain, which means like we as a community agreed on that, so that's great. And yeah, I think I don't leave anything. I'll pass it to Lauren.
Yeah, everyone said a lot of really good things. I think lessons learned. I mean, lessons learned, like, for me, are really about like the timing and the bandwidth of things. It was like I think. I mean, I think it was really great that we extended the time for doing param parties and debates, but I also think it was really awkward, and I think that this is like a lesson learned that we already discussed, and I think that like in the future, creating more play. And I think that the reason that we ended up having to do it really is that we just didn't have so much bandwidth, like pushing really hard on getting people coming in. I think that many people wearing many hats is like a symptom that I'm seeing, or like a problem that I'm seeing in like a lot of DAOs, which kind of slows our ability to meet deadlines. So I think that's really like the main thing. But we ended up meeting. I mean, we created the extension, and then I think we got a lot of participation, and then ended up with good proposals and a lot of people learning. I don't really know how it would be possible. I mean, the stewards participating a lot in the collaborative economics and kind of like showing the proposals and being the leaders on it. It's like really hard not to end up like that, because it's like the people who come into the community are the people who like, and then get engaged and then get super active, generally end up kind of coming into these conversations and becoming stewards eventually. So I think I don't know. I don't really know how that problem could possibly be solved, but I think, yeah, lessons learned for me are really to do with bandwidth. How can we make sure that we're not all being overloaded so that we can like meet our deadlines better, or like expand our team in such a way that we have more support. Yeah. I'll pass it to Tam. Tam, did you go?
I did. Thank you. I'll pass that to
Yeah,
you.
I'll pass to Ben's.
Hey, yeah, lesson learned for me is just how much education and work goes into kind of doing something that is grassroots, and to do something in that way. And I've been a little later, so I've been doing a lot of that learning and kind of trying to catch up. And yeah, it's just amazing how much work you all have put into that, engaging newcomers and educating people. Yeah, so that's it for me.
Thank you. And Jeremy, do you have something to share?
So what I learned was a totally different, since I was in the bleachers from the outside in. So it has a different feel to it than like the lived experience of like having gone through it. But so it's very brainy, what I've learned, right? All of the like the participation is the thing that sticks out with me the most, right? Just seeing how many people were sort of actively engaged. And I have a hypothesis that I'd like to check actually right now. Does anybody think if that was a function of time, right? Griff, you mentioned that there's was a large delay of 2 years or so. Was that an enabling force for the amount of people that participated? It might have been higher had you launched early. Anybody else?
I just think different people would have participated. It's
Yeah, thank you everyone for sharing. I think my thoughts were contemplated in everything that was said. And I think I echo a lot of that of how can we have more people engaged? A lot of what Lauren said, how more people engaged in single functions instead of like multi-purpose people that are involved in everything, then maybe we could have been like more time efficient, but also that feels almost utopian. Like I don't know like if we needed to have this working this way to get these outcomes, and then maybe with more clarity now from these learnings and refining the process, then we can start to engage with more people, because it's a super complex subject. So I think with time we'll make it more simple, and then that will like end up involving getting more people involved. But those are all super great questions and just reflections, and I'll try to get this more organized in a blog post. Maybe you can help me, Nate, since you like doing this stuff.
Yeah, down.
Yeah, cool. And well, we have just 30 minutes left, and I don't think we'll be able to go through all of these questions, but it's something that has been coming up in both the research group and the reward systems. I mean, in the research group for the reward systems, and then the case studies talks we've been having. So just a reflection on the culture of praise and what directions are we taking, and why bringing this to SoftGov and not to the reward systems working group, just because I think here we have more space to debate and get into the like more philosophical points of this question, and then the reward working group has been more implementation and hands-on, so we can chew on this concept and bring it there in a more objective manner. So I perceive that the engagement with the sorry, I talked to Tim today, and she said maybe I have like a long COVID. Is that what do you call it, Tim? That's like infinite brain fog for a long period of time. So I'm sorry, I know I'm really slow speaking lately. But
just to be clear, I didn't notice you explained the symptoms, and I said those are symptoms of long COVID.
Yeah, okay, so just bear with me. But I noticed that the engagement and praise has slowed down a lot, and I have a few theories for it. One of them is maybe it's just because the gamification of the leaderboard is not happening. So people are not seeing the outcome of their praise. So they're not engaging with praise so much. And my other theory is that the community call praise created some type of like a not so positive type of engagement that limited praise to that call, and then people started to like, oh, I'll save my praise for the community call and I'll praise it there, and then don't praise in other times. And then a lot starts to get missed because that is the moment that we're praising. And then there's some type of anxiety of like, oh my God, I have to prepare my praise. And then it becomes this like obligation thing because you're facing a lot of other people in a public setting. I think both of them are true. I think both things are happening. And I wanted to get some reflections on this. So the good thing is that the first one, the gamification of the leaderboard, that's going to be solved very soon. if this is a correct prediction of like how engagement is being affected. And then the second one, it would be good to hear opinions about, because I think it's a very, I was afraid to talk about this at first, because I was like, oh my God, is that like something that people love so much, and then problematizing it might like not be the best option. But I think it's worth anyway, just as having the reflection. So maybe we can do like a popcorn style. If anyone has something to say about it, you can jump in.
I really miss the leaderboard. Like, I think it was very motivating to, push harder and contribute more.
Yeah, I agree with that. Go ahead, Griff. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. But I'll say, yeah, leaderboard also like not having, this no direct feedback. Like you just praise. It's like, when is it going to be quanted? Is it going to be quanted? How much TC is actually going to be rewarded? And all the ambiguity is like, it has less of a impact, I guess. And other thing that I think would be nice is if we praised in other channels and didn't hide it in the praise channel, because it really doesn't get seen as much. Like the praise, who goes to the praise channel? Only people who get praised, maybe, to see what was there, but like if we dished it in other channels, other people would be like, yeah, and also praise this person, and it might be more able to be engaged. And on the community call, I think that there's positive and negatives, right? Yeah, there's people saving their praise for the community call, but then there's also people being exposed to the praise culture for the first time and then making praise because of it, right? So in the end, like, what are the metrics? Is the metrics to get more praise from a diverse group of people? If so, I think the community call actually sort of forces that, because people who are praising may not praise, and like everyone who's at the call praises, and it's like 20-ish people all giving signals. Whereas otherwise I feel like we might be more dominated by just a few people who are willing to put in the time to praise. So it has its pros and its cons. Nate, did you have more to say though?
Yeah. So I guess I noticed, like, with my own practice towards praise, which I think is really something that we should stress to community members, and how to do it, and the responsibility that comes along with praise within this community, because it is part of our reward system. But I found that over time, my threshold for granting praise got higher and higher and higher. And I'm not sure exactly why that is, but I think the leaderboard probably had a lot to do with that. Just because, even when our impact hours didn't have value, you had this assumption, you knew it meant something, and whether it meant tokens or just recognition, like it meant something. And so I was more apt to give praise at that point and be more cavalier with my praise giving. And I thought that was a very, very good thing. And as time went on and the impact hours were done, the tokens were distributed, I think that praise kind of lost its meaning. And so receiving praise didn't feel as good, as well as giving praise didn't feel as good. And so I think that type of intrinsic motivation begets more intrinsic motivation. And so, like, it's an interesting concept and approach towards things. So I think the gamification of leaderboard is really a really good observation. And then the community call, yeah, I try to practice, like, I want to get better at giving praise in the moment when it's deserved, and being very specific about the praise that I dish. When I get to the community call, I feel like I've messed up and I forgot to write down my praise, and so I'm just dishing out praise that's not. It's just flattery, It's not genuine. It doesn't have a lot of meaning behind it, and that's not what we want to be doing. and I'm very guilty of that, and I assume a lot of other people are as well. But it's just one of those things where I do think we have to stress the importance of how we praise and the way we do it to the rest of the community members, so that it keeps persisting within the culture itself. So yeah, those are just my thoughts around it. But I will pass it over to Ben's or whoever else if you have any comments, Ben.
Yeah, I actually do. This is more of a kind of my own personal view on praise and like how I've kind of I haven't really come to this. I'm kind of just now coming to this. I'm not someone who is doing things for praise, but it does feel good to get it. And I think one of the things that has kind of held me back in engaging a little bit is I don't want to feel like like I almost don't engage as much, ask questions, because I feel like that's like a burden on the person who I'm asking or things like that. It's not because I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing. It's more like I don't want to slow things down or be a burden or something. And I'm kind of coming around to the idea of like it's not a one-way thing when we're engaging with people within our community, and praise actually like gives kind of like creates an exchange. Like you with that, now I can give someone praise for helping me, and it's like I'm not just taking. I know I'm not anyway, but I don't know. That's just something that has helped me in my own thinking. Is like that sort of dynamic.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
I want to share another thing, and I feel also when you receive the praise in the community call feels, I don't know, for me it feels better than in the chat. Like the person who's saying it is saying you're live. I don't know. It have, in my opinion, like good vibes.
Yeah, one question for that is, does it feel better because it's live? Like, does it feel better because otherwise you don't receive the praise? Or if you just received a praise that is unexpected at any time, would that feel better? Or there is like a predictability of the praise time that it creates some type of tension of like, oh, am I gonna get praise? Did I write all my praise? Or this tension doesn't exist, or it's minor, like it's not a point of that we should be worried about.
No, I mean I feel it's just more. I don't know, like especially like when the people have like the camera on and they're dishing you the praise. I don't know. I just think it feels like even if it's the same praise, like they praise you for the same thing, but if they tell you, I think it feels better than if they tell you in the chat.
I'd say somehow it feels more public than on the chat, even though they're both public. I just want to maybe add one thing about the community call. I look at that praise beginning as two things. One, as an opportunity for people who've been in our community for a long time to model praise behavior. And on the other side, for people who are new to our community to exercise, so to sort of give it a go, to practice praise. So I actually look at it as pretty important for those reasons. I think that's all I wanted to add.
I also think that something that maybe affected the amount of praise given is that I think several of us use this word like that we were on a limbo. Like yeah, before the praise was for the distribution of impact hours, and now between the implementation of the reward system and the hatch, like things felt like okay, praise somehow. We knew and we know that it was going to be retroactively done, but it felt like a little bit like outdated. And I feel like when praise comes and like updates to our present time, where you feel like the praise that you give today is going to somehow be recognized to that person soon. Yeah, that encourage you to praise more.
Oh, I think we got some good feedbacks from both of them. Is there any other thoughts here? Okay, so I can pass to the other topic. This is just an idea that I wanted to share. So we were talking about subject matter experts with Nate and Carol the other day, and how can we create awareness of who are subject matter experts? What defines one? What is the definition of the role? How to interact with them? All of this that have turned the role of subject matter experts something kind of difficult to define since we started, and it didn't really pick up. And also with this question of like, oh, where are the token engineers? It seems to be a recurring thought that token engineers are not around. And so I was thinking, what if that the flower of token engineering became categories of praise, and that they were somehow introduced to the quantification? So every type of contribution could populate one of these flowers. So it would not be like who are the people that are attached to these names, but what are the contributions that are attached to these categories. And then that would give us a perspective, like system wise, to how, like, what are we missing? Like which one of these areas are we missing to be like a wholesome token engineering project? So I brought that to the research group, and Aloysius gave a very good idea to how to bring that to the quantification without being something very, I don't know, one more thing to do. And they said, what if we create emojis that each emoji is attached to one different petal? And we start praising a lot with those emojis, or like bring those emojis to conversations and create some type of awareness of these emojis to the point that they become intuitive. So in the quantification, when people were quantifying, they just have those emojis to choose from. And they know that each one of those emojis represent each one of the petals. And we could have like something that you can easily see what is what, but that with time that would become like very easy. And then yeah, we would have in the analysis dashboard this reflection. And then the people who are connected to most contributions in each one of the petals could earn some type of automated subject matter expert title on Discord with that put on the side. So before I bring this to the reward working group, I just wanted to see how much it resonates, if it sounds like a good idea and something that we could do.
I like it a lot. I think it'd be interesting to see how we implement something like that, especially if, for the advice process in particular, like if, you're trying to make a decision and you have a certain, couple categories that it may fit into, and having, an emoji that does that, it'd be really cool if those emojis could actually ping those subject matter experts. Um, Simultaneously, but I don't know if that's something Discord is capable of doing. But my only concern with this would be that most decisions that we make, the decision spaces that we have that need advice process, aren't necessarily needed by token specific types of experts. Like if I wanted to change something in Discord, I would probably go to Vive and not Trent McConaughey or somebody like that. It's kind of very hard to consider, a subject matter expert on a decision that most of the time we don't really need the token engineer present. We need the people who are most impacted by that type of decision making. And so if it impacts the people who are actually having to implement it, that's who we need to talk to. And those people become the subject matter expert, regardless of their classification. So those are my thoughts around it.
Yeah, just a quick comment on that. The idea would be that we would identify subject matter experts that are active in the community. So I think it would bring an ease to this feeling that like, oh, we don't have token engineers that are active, that are around, that are present. But then who are the people that are present that can share expertise in all of these areas? And then the more people become active, then they would also be included in those categories, but by their contributions and not by their like person, like being who they are type of thing.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And also, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
It's okay. I'm going to jump in. Yeah, I think it's a really cool idea, and I want to just sort of bring something in from Communitas as part of this onboarding experience. We've been talking about allowing people to self-assign roles using emojis, and this could potentially be just a stop of the onboarding experience where there's a bot that allows people to self-assign their own subject matter expertise. Maybe it's not something that then we give to other people, but people will assign that role to themselves, and they can sort of come in and out of those roles however they feel comfortable. And it really fits in nicely to how we're planning this experience anyway. So.
I think we'll. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Zap. You first.
I was just going to say, like, I think I think after what Tom said, like self-assigning roles, I think it would be nice also if, and combine it with what Livy was saying about, like, after you accomplish a certain amount of tasks, then, like, I don't know, like level up on that role or whatever. But so you encourage people to self-assign. So like, I care about this topic, but then you also encourage them to keep advancing in that role. I don't know about others, but it helps me a lot, like, to get more engaged.
I think it'd be super cool to have a few different processes that we can use to try to categorize praise, and it's probably going to be a process of trying different things and seeing what works and what doesn't work and what the drawbacks are. Emojis seem like an easy one to try. I do think we don't want to make it too hard to dish praise. So we shouldn't like require people to make emojis, but like, hey, it's there. Like, and maybe if it gets adoption and people start using it because it's somehow fun and enjoyable, then that's great. I also think dishing it in channels that are associated with we can categorize based off of the channel that it was dished in, and that's nice and low effort. And I think that we'll also find other ways to create low effort, good UX ways to allow for categories. Giving the quantifiers the option to make a category, to categorize could also be interesting, you know. And we take. I think it's going to take to put this praise in the, and then also, of course, there's like using word recognition and scanners to try to categorize. So I think all of these processes should just be tried if there is value for categorizing, and we'll see what sticks.
Yeah, just to clarify, the idea was to bring this into the quantification, not the praising itself. So I mean, people who are praising, if they are aware of the emojis, they could use it to facilitate the job of the quantifier. And that could be cool. And then people might feel excited about that, like you said. But the idea was to make it easy to praise, but then bring this to the quantification. And since there's already that work of like, you're already reading and doing one action, maybe you could have just another action that is like, you have all that range of emojis ready there, and then you just click the one that represents.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's better than what I understood. Sorry about that. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think we talked a lot about this too, of the words, like how to use just the words to categorize, but then it was really easy just with like Twitter and meetings. That's why we end up having just such a kind of a biased understanding in the end of the praise analysis, that like there was so much attention going to Twitter and meetings, mostly because those were the only words that were accurately showing what a praise was for.
Yeah, and I think for those sorts of things, you have to train the bots, right? So doing one-off is never going to work very well, but if you do it every week, you analyze every 2 weeks, you analyze, you improve it, you add, you subtract, you adjust, then over time you build something that could categorize well. But
Yeah,
MS would know more than I do about this. So.
And if we have no more comments about that, just the last thing that came up today, actually, then ex-Trusted Seed then suggested this. It was like, what if there is an opt-out button of the final distribution? Like, what if a person doesn't need either the tokens or if a person doesn't need the tokens, like if they have a lot of governance already and they feel well off financially, that they wouldn't like to accumulate more power, could they opt out of receiving the rewards? And how would we introduce that, and how to brand that or to communicate that in the best way?
And then what would happen to the tokens? They just stay with the reward board?
They could either go back to the commons pool or no, I mean, they couldn't, because they would be in the they could just go back to the reward board for the next distribution.
I think it would be pretty easy to implement from a technical level. That's for sure. It's just a quick little website that gives a list, and then you don't distribute to those people. The social side of it is like the why and the, would we promote that, or I don't know. That's an interesting thing. And when we distribute, we're just actually sending it. It's not like people have to claim, right?
Yeah, it's just sending.
Cool.
I like that a lot, actually. And I think that can go back to like the gamification of the leaderboard too, just to have like this kind of competition to see how many people who have opted out, and kind of give them social recognition for giving back to the commons, and just saying, hey, these people have done a lot and they've chosen not to take away governance and take away value from this awesome economy. And so I think it'd be really good. I don't see any problem with it, but I think, yeah.
I mean, the big problem is that we want these people to have governance. Like, the DAO's a little bit better if the people on the ground are actually the ones making decisions, you know?
Yeah, I wanted to say the same thing. I actually don't look at it as something to commend, like, yay, you didn't accept your tokens. But I think that there's certain use cases. Octopus is the one use case that comes to mind, where he has a conflict with his university if he accepts any sort of payment outside of the university he's working with. So I think that there are some people who will want to opt out for personal or professional reasons, such as that one. He's the one that comes to mind immediately. And then it'll be very interesting if people opt out for other reasons. It'll be very interesting to see those use cases as they arrive.
Does anyone has any last comments before we close the call?
I guess just one thing. Don't you opt out by not submitting an address?
Yeah, that could be the simple way. But then I think you wouldn't even go to the... yeah, maybe we could still build the leaderboard before... I wonder if we could... Because now the way with the dashboard, if you don't have an address, you don't even go through quantification. So I wonder if people would want their praise for a reputation reason. Like, they would want to be seen as doing work, but they wouldn't want to have the other values of the token.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that maybe, like, under that circumstance, like Octopus's situation, like, I wonder if there's just like any way in which it could be like legally interpreted in some way that what the praise system recognizes with is with like governance tokens. So I mean, if he's not able to like be paid, like maybe like we could support in some way, like with our own legal infrastructure, that the reward system doesn't give out like payouts or cash. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's something like that already, but I feel that like this governance in vote weight could be interpreted as like what he is rewarded with, not money. So yeah, I mean, this way, I mean, the option for opting out is there, but we're not putting people under that situation like in a default way.
Yeah, maybe leave it very like it's just there, but then it's not promoted.
Use an opt-out multisig for voting.
Opt-out multisig. Oops. Katie was calling me. That was nice to see. Okay, so we're on the top of the hour, and